It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Bantha TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine, indeed. I'm your host, Brian Cameron, back once again with another weekly recap of all the news in the Star Wars galaxy, courtesy of Bantha TV, as well as some discussion and opinions as well. Joining me this week is my guest, Mr. Mark Mulcaster, get the name out, co-host of Making Tracks on Bantha Tracks Radio. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well, Brian. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a busy week. Once again, full of Star Wars news and lots to discuss. So let's have a little look at what we're going to be discussing today.
Cool.
First up, we're going to talk about Regal Robot's new Bantha magnet. We're going to have a little discussion on Leslye Headlands' ideas behind how she pitched her Star Wars Disney Plus series. We've got a look back at Mando Monday releases from the past Monday. We're going to have a discussion on George Lucas's comments on his sequel trilogy from Star Wars Archives, the prequel edition, that book that's just come out. And we're going to have a look at what's come out from Funko in the Mandalorian Range over the past couple of weeks. And we'll have a look at Hasbro's FanFirst Friday reveals. So, Mark, out of all that stuff, is there a particular news item that you're looking forward to chewing over?
Wow. I mean, it's Star Wars, so all of it, really. But I'm quite interested about the Leslye Headland new series. I think that's going to be quite interesting. So
let's kick off, though, with a little discussion on Regal Robot. They're continuing their series of magnets. The latest in the line of the Beast series is a Bantha magnet, which obviously has gone down well at banthatracks.com.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. They need to do a limited edition version where he's wearing some sunglasses, I reckon.
I think so.
Just to appeal to the Bantha trackers out there.
Yeah. Obviously, it was a big part of recent Mandalorian episode as well, so back in the consciousness of Star Wars fans everywhere. Have you picked up any of the Regal Robot stuff in the past?
The only thing I've got, obviously because it's difficult to get stuff unless you go out to the States, but I've got the gargoyle head that they did a few years ago, which is I think another magnet type kind of collectible, which is quite cool, and it's set up next to my Jabba the Hutt dais. It's quite cool, but all these kind of magnets are really well detailed with the level of accuracy and just kind of detail it goes into them. They just look great. So I wish I could get them all. And to be fair, I mean, the stuff that they do at Regal Robots is amazing. So, if you get a chance to get any, thoroughly take the opportunity, I reckon.
Yeah. And of course, this one's coming out at, I think, $30. I think I'm right in saying that they are.
Yeah.
And if you order it before tomorrow, I believe shipping in the US is free as well. Which is always a nice offer.
Exactly. Great if you're in the US.
Yeah. They've also got coming up, we're going to hear tomorrow, a Mandalorian themed art plaque. And coming up later in November and December, there's going to be some more vintage inspired art plaques and furniture item from the Mandalorian. And it's always fascinating that there's the huge high value items, the furniture items of me. I always like to see what they've done. The Dewback sort of couch that they did before was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and the those vintage art plaques that they produced the Wampa one from the deleted scene from Empire Strikes Back. They look really cool. So something nice and kind of like fairly tasteful that you can kind of just put around your house and just tie everything together.
Yeah. You mentioned wanting to discuss this as well. Leslye Headland, she discussed how she pitched her concept for the upcoming Disney Plus series that she's heading. Still don't know what that series is going to be. There's rumours it's going to be a female-centric martial arts type program, but that's just rumour. But she mentioned the fact that she's pitched her concept using the Star Wars Essential Atlas, and started with her designer plotting out the journey that she expected her characters to go on. So what did you think of what she said so far?
It's interesting. I mean, Leslye has gone on record to say that she's always been a Star Wars fan, and I mean, she does admit she wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the prequels, but she's certainly got a love for the expanded universe, and she said that she discovered the expanded universe through Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. So it makes sense that she would kind of refer to a book like this, and also it's quite fun that they're looking at the Atlas, because obviously the Atlas does include planets that are no longer canon. So if it's a way of introducing new planets into this canon, I reckon that's going to be really cool.
Yeah. So. And moving swiftly on, Mando Mondays. This past week, we got a whole bunch of new merch. First up, there's the Disney Magic Kingdoms event that they're going to be doing. We saw what's now become the controversial child in the egg canister.
Yes.
Are you a pop collector?
For my sins, I am, and even more for my sins, I take the little buggers out of the box. I'm not. I know. I mean, I do keep some of the convention exclusives in the box, but I took the decision to actually just to take them out of the box because they look quite fun, and also you can get more on the shelf. But what I tend to do, because I'm a Rebel Legion member, I tend to only collect the good guys characters. So I'll just collect just all of those, and I'll try and do like a shelf per film. So I've kind of got like representation from every single film that they've done. So yeah, that's cool. And the Mando ones are good. Got a couple of Baby Yodas, and I've got the giant Baby Yoda Funko sat down in its box. That's one thing I have still got in its box. So yeah, that looks cool. These little kind of almost dioramas, as they were, they always look fun, and this one in particular, having Baby Yoda, and it's he's just a cute little bugger, so it's great.
Yeah. Hasbro, they revealed the Black Series Mandalorian electronic helmet, which was teased a little on last week's Star Wars show. Again, very beautiful item. Really well done. It's on a scale of 1-1. We've also got the Black Series Remnant Trooper, exclusive at Target. I think I'm right in saying that that's also coming with, I want to say the Razor Crest.
Not to my knowledge. So with the Razor Crest, you're getting a Mandalorian, so you're getting a Din, and you're getting another Baby Yoda, as well as a Jawa chief with like a knife and the kind of the
I can remember it's packed somewhere else. It's packed in something.
I tell you where it's packed. It's packed with the Mandalorian Monopoly set. I think.
That's right. That's it. Yep.
That's where they're getting one, and I think that may only be like a US or a Target exclusive from memory. I could be wrong about that. So.
And Mattel's the Child Premium Plush Bundle as well. Anything the child's selling, big style at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's Matt chiming in there. He's correcting me as well. It is coming with the Monopoly one.
Yeah, I mean that satchel looks cool. To be fair.
Big fan of Star Wars clothes as well. We've got some new items coming out from. I guess you pronounce it by the letters, so RSVLTS.
I guess.
But, yeah, I don't know if anyone knows how to pronounce that.
That shows how fashionable me and you are. So.
Yeah. And there's actually lots of really nice stuff in that collection. I had a flick through it earlier, and I may be tempted to jump in there for a few items.
There's a nice kind of like Tatooine kind of sunset type thing with like the Mandalorian on a Bantha, so that could be quite popular with some people.
The other big news item this week that sort of came out of the left field a little bit is we've got the Star Wars Archives prequel edition book come out, written by Paul Duncan, and in it he interviewed George Lucas and spoke at length about the prequels. But they also spoke about George's plans for the sequel trilogy. And in that, George discussed the fact that he intended his sequel trilogy to be focused on Maul and Darth Talon. Wondered what you thought about George's comments.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think now everybody is pretty much kind of looking at different alternatives for the sequel trilogy. You know, a lot of people jumped on the Duel of Fates concept stuff and said that was going to be better. And obviously, if you look at some of the concepts, they were incorporated into the canon. So, you know, obviously we see Darth Maul in Solo, and Luke does attempt to rebuild the Jedi Academy to some extent. But what's interesting is like the fact they wanted to have it so, you know, set so closer to Return of the Jedi rather than kind of like, you know, almost a real time gap of like 30 years. So that does make me wonder how they were going to achieve that, if they were going to really double down on de-aging technology to try and, you know, make the actors look younger, or if there was even a possibility that they could have recast, you know, for the first episode. But yeah, it's quite fun. It's I mean, it's great having Darth Talon. I mean, Darth Talon is quite a cool character. So I definitely would have been interested to see where this had gone. I mean, what's interesting, he doesn't mention like where Han Solo would have been as well. So I'm curious as to what he would have done there. I mean, I'm guessing if there's an underworld kind of aspect to this, and maybe Han is dealing in the underworld a little bit more, or maybe fighting against Maul on that sense. So what did you make of it?
Well, I kind of thought it was interesting that little elements of it were kind of used in the Solo, a Star Wars story film, obviously with Maul and the crime lord kind of background to it. So I don't think it's necessarily a concept that's been entirely abandoned by Lucasfilm. No. And
exactly.
Obviously, we don't really hear much about how far this was developed, because obviously they were working on concepts before Disney purchased the company, because that was part of the reason that they had to sell it. You know, they were selling it with the concept that we're going to do a new trilogy.
Yes, exactly, to get the money. Yeah,
I'm guessing these were very short 10-15 pages of concepts with probably some art to support it. So
yeah, just a rough outline, just enough to kind of dangle it in front of Disney and get them interested. I mean, there's definitely lots of kind of tidbits there. I mean, it's quite nice to kind of get this idea that actually, you know, Luke put a call out for any remaining Jedi to kind of come back, so that it sounds like we may have actually had an introduction to new Jedi, or even maybe some existing Jedi. I mean, it wouldn't be cool if in episode 7 Luke puts out a call and like Ahsoka Tano comes back and to help him set up a new academy. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do agree with Mark's comment there about maybe Ford wasn't likely to come back. So you know, it is possible, but I wonder if it would have been a similar kind of deal, whether or not Harrison Ford would have wanted to be killed off in, you know, in the first episode or something, just to kind of get him out of the way and close off his story.
The most interesting line I thought from the passage was his comment that Leia ends up as the chosen one, purely as she becomes Supreme Chancellor, which I thought was just an interesting little, how would you describe it? Little grenade thrown in the room there by George.
just a bit. I mean, but also, you know, it's like everyone, who's got the surname Skywalker at one point or another seems to be the chosen one. So why not let Leia be it? And actually, what would be interesting would be maybe if she is trained by Luke, as we kind of saw in Rise of Skywalker, but actually, she becomes like a Supreme Chancellor and starts to maybe kind of like descend towards the darkness. So we start to see kind of events like, kind of recycling and kind of mirroring how maybe like Palpatine kind of got into power. That would be slightly ironic. So
yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Next big news item is we had a look on fantatracks.com at all the Funko releases over the past few weeks, with huge amounts of Funkos coming out in support of the Mandalorian being back on Disney Plus. You mentioned earlier you collect some of these. Anything amongst these that jumped out at you that you've gone ahead and purchased?
Yeah, the Mandalorian with a child. Yeah, I've got that one. And the thing is, it's like, how many iterations of a child or Baby Yoda do we want as Funkos? It's pretty much, literally every kind of conceivable pose that they can kind of get him
the child has done.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, other than like sticking an egg in its mouth, yeah. But the actual Mandalorian, so like, the Death Watch Mandalorian and the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian, they look cool. They're really awesome. And I kind of included IG-11 in it because obviously how he kind of sacrifices himself at the end. So in my take, he's a reprogrammed IG-11. So
yeah, and lots of them there for people to select what they want from. This past Friday as well was Fan First Friday, where Hasbro revealed some of the Black Series in the Vintage Collection that's coming soon. Zooton from the Vintage Collection there, a character people have been calling out for a while. It's coming spring next year.
I would have liked the like a red and a blue option as well, just to kind of like, harken back to the original Vintage Collection. Why not? But it's nice to see him kind of like in a more screen accurate kind of portrayal. So
Ventress, another popular character, especially after their Clone Wars appearances as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, and sculpt looks great on that. So,
and I think last in there was the Bad Batch Hunter and Crosshair. Bad Batch obviously coming next year on Disney Plus as a cartoon.
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't do all. I think it's 5 in one go. I'd always thought that it would make an awesome kind of like multi-pack by itself. Or like how they've just released the Rebels characters as like a set. I think I'm sure they're going to come, but these two are nice and very well articulated, so they're brilliant sculpts. I'm probably going to get those.
Yeah. And with us being all the way through the news, time to move on to this week's big discussion topic, and we're going to be discussing in Jabba's Court, Mandalorian Chapter 11, the Heiress, the appearance of our fan favourite in this week's episode from the Clone Wars, and what was a pretty high action episode. So what did you think overall of this week's episode?
I thought it was absolutely dreadful. It was probably the most amount of filler I've seen in my life. No, so I can't keep a straight face. No, honestly, yeah, it was a really strong, solid episode, and I thought the introduction of Bo-Katan was really well done, and also not done in a way whereby we had to have like a load of exposition and it slowed the pace down. I think they kind of balanced it really well to be able to kind of get enough over for her backstory without kind of really having to kind of stop and have one of those really awkward exposition-y type moments. Katie Sackhoff looked great as Bo-Katan, and I kind of liked her live action take, which is, I think, a little bit different to the animated version. It did kind of feel like it was slightly more kind of edgy and slightly more kind of Starbuck-esque than possibly the animated version. But I was all in for it. It was a great episode, and I think Bryce Dallas Howard has done a blinding job in her second episode directing. And also, I think it's if you look back to her episode from season 1, which is what chapter 4, the Sanctuary, it's again the only episode so far in season 2 whereby we've actually got Baby Yoda being a child as such. He's actually been given the opportunity to kind of like be a child in a soft, safe family environment, which I'm guessing he's not going to get too many opportunities to do that. What was your take of it? What did you think? I mean, because you don't really know Clone Wars, do you?
Yeah, I don't follow Star Wars animation, just a personal kind of preference in that. So I'm not overly familiar with the Bo-Katan character. Obviously, I've seen her in clips and various other media as well. So when you talked about the exposition of it, it kind of worked for me that it didn't go too heavy into what she's done and where she's been before. It alluded to the fact that she's interested in the Darksaber, which again, I don't know as much as other people know about, other than its appearances on the Mandalorian. So I thought they got the balance right there. It was enough to make me appreciate and understand the character without getting 10 pages of script thrown at me to catch me up. Bryce's directing I thought was brilliant. Her episode was one of my favourites from the first series, and again, shaping up this way this time. I picked up on the fact that she copied her father's Apollo 13 sequence as well.
Yes.
Which was beautifully done and matched scene for scene and didn't remotely feel out of place. So anyone that saw that would, I think, fans of Apollo 13 would have picked up on that comparison there.
Yeah, exactly.
What I liked best, I think, about the episode was the special effects didn't seem as forced in this episode as they did. I made that comment last week. That they felt a little bit forced, and they felt very slick here. I think there was a lot more actual physical sets in this one, or it certainly felt that way. I'm guessing there's going to be a making of at some point down the line that'll show me to be a complete fool, and it was all CGI.
I mean, because it was interesting, because just the very nature of like a seafaring port or like harbour like that, it's a very kind of like Earth kind of concept. So for them to kind of do it and pull it off in a really Star Wars kind of way was really good, because I was a bit worried that it was just going to feel just a little bit out of place. I mean, my only grumble is like I wasn't a huge fan of the knitwear that the Mon Cal were wearing, to be honest. That just felt like somebody had just kind of walked into like a Gap or a Marks and Spencer's and just pulled it off of the shelf. But yeah, I mean, I agree actually with Mooncat Drums. But I think Bryce Dallas Howard needs her own series. I think she could do it. And I think she's got like a different sensibility, so she's able to kind of balance this like high action stuff with being able to have these kind of like softer moments. But yeah, so I would be curious, because I was wondering actually when you got those high kind of wide shots looking down at the harbour as to like how much of that was in the volume and how much of it was kind of background stuff and set dressing. So, but yeah, so it was a solid episode, and watching Mando be the tank that he is on the freighter was just like a really high point.
I thought the characters, the Quarren, the Mon Cal, in terms of the puppets, the models of them were done really well. Especially the facial movements about them. It felt really for the first time that some of them were really alive there.
Mr.
Newbold, editor over at Phantom Tracks, is pointing out there's going to be more discussion on the next episode making tracks out on Tuesday.
I will pass on one of the nuggets that actually Mark said in the episode, and that was that Hal Hickel, who is the special effects supervisor for Mandalorian, he won the Oscar for Pirates of the Caribbean for Davy Jones, which is the kind of the squid kind of character in that. So you could kind of maybe see potentially, if it was done in VFX and that, if that's where they kind of drew the experience from. So yeah, chunky knit in Star Wars. I'm not too sure. A lot of people seem to dig it on Twitter and that, but I'm just like, I'm not too sure about it.
I'm going to make a confession here that just before we came on air, I went and changed my top because I had on a chunky knit top. And I thought I just looked like a Mon Cal. Ross
There's the
Cargo's got an
gap.
interesting comment here. I'm going to pick up on the music in episode 11 was fantastic. I never really picked up on it on when I've watched it, so that's something I'm going to have to go back and watch.
I mean, there's one thing that I did think actually was, when he boards a ship, it's just how much that the main theme is just like a really good traveling track. It's great for just kind of like, it works whenever they're on the move, be it on land or in sea or in space. It just seems to work and kind of move like everything on. So a couple of things I did pick out was just the use of kind of like Empire Strikes Back era kind of sound effects. Like you've got the sound of the AT-AT when we get pulled out of the sea. But also actually when Bo-Katan takes her helmet off, you kind of get that kind of weird, kind of high pitched, kind of like squeal that you get when Vader puts his helmet on and takes the helmet off, which I thought was quite cool. Nice little touch.
We also got a couple of new actors in there as well, playing Mandos, and Simon, I want to say Cassinedes. I'm not familiar with him. He's actually a London-based actor.
Yeah, he's a UK Londoner.
He played Axe Woves. Mercedes Fernando as well, who people will probably know better as Sasha Banks from WWE, as Kosha Reeves as well. Didn't have big speaking roles or necessarily big impact in the episode, but having more defined Mandalorian characters seems like a positive move.
Yeah, exactly, rather than just generic Mando 1 and 2. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the dialogue was kind of eaten up by Katie Sackhoff, so which is fair enough. She's probably commanding the highest kind of like fee for the episode. But I didn't really get a chance to look at Sasha Banks in the fighting. I don't know if she kind of nicked any of her kind of WWE type moves and stuff, and I'm not sure if it would translate well or even be possible in Mandalorian armor.
You tend to find that when they try that, it looks clumsy on film.
Yeah. So that's what, and it would probably kind of not work quite so well. So, but yeah.
And Ross is just filling us in on some information on there and who Simon played. He was in Bond Quantum of Solace as well. So
he's
where
been
we'll
around.
recognise the face from.
Yeah, I mean he's been. I mean I had a look at his IMDb and he's been in lots of things, and he's one of those actors that you recognise, but you don't necessarily recognise from a specific film, unless you're Ross, obviously. Then he obviously picks him out straight away from a Bond film. So.
I always allude to where do you want the next episode to go to. There obviously was the big spoiler there was the reveal that the Jedi that he's being directed towards by Bo-Katan is going to be Ahsoka, which I'm sure has long been rumoured, but finally confirmed. Do you think that's going to hit in the next episode, or do you think we're going to veer away in a separate direction?
Well, see, there's a part of me that thinks, having looked at the who's directing the episodes, Dave Filoni's down to direct the 5th episode of the season. So that one suggests to me possibly that's where we might see at least a bulk of Ahsoka. So we might see Ahsoka right at the very end as a kind of a tease. But I mean, ultimately, we're kind of in that position where potentially it could be another kind of like traveling episode. So it could be a bit like chapter 10, whereby we're kind of like transitioning from one planet to another, and maybe we get sidetracked along the way. We are running out of episodes. We don't have that many left. So, if they want to kind of get to Ahsoka, they probably need to get to it at least in the next episode or the one after.
Yeah. I've got a suspicion that they're going to veer off into a completely different storyline next week. It feels like they're teased Ahsoka here, but they're maybe not going to deliver on her straight away.
Yeah, kind of dangle that carrot again. That seems to be my phrase of the evening, bizarrely. So yeah, exactly. It's like, as Phil says, another side quest. I mean, you could almost say that in some respects, Din Djarin as a character didn't necessarily take front and center for this episode. It was very much like Bo-Katan's episode, and he was just a passenger, really. He was kind of along for the ride a little bit. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's only so much you can really do with a character who doesn't really talk so verbosely as me and you. So,
yeah. And as we're head towards the end of the episode. We go for the last drink at the Cantina. And this week's discussion, what character do you want to see appear on the live-action small screen, from publishing, animation, games, films? What character should make the transition next? Obviously, we've had characters jump from the Aftermath trilogy into episode 1. We've now had jump from Clone Wars and Rebels in what was that, episode 3 of this series. Anyone else from Star Wars Galaxy that belongs in The Mandalorian?
I mean, there's so many. I mean, it would be great, definitely, to see. I don't know. I mean, hell, why not? Let's get Dash Rendar in there. Let's get him in. Let's drag him kicking and screaming from Shadows of the Empire and put him into live action. I think we need some more kind of like outwardly, like, blatant rogues and stuff like that. But to be fair, I mean, anybody that they can kind of transition over believably, I think it's going to work. So, I mean, Jorah Sabath, that would be quite an interesting take. Or, Fen, So, there's so many. I mean, everybody's got their favourites, and Zuvio obviously is one of them. So, but I think, didn't we see Zuvio at the start of Chapter 9? Wasn't he at the Gamorrean wrestling ring? It looked like him. The guy was wearing the same kind of.
I reckon
like,
he's
hat,
just. Everyone goes on about Zuvio's hat, but I think it's just like a baseball hat now.
It
appears
just like
everywhere.
Yankees. It's just overrated, isn't it? So,
I'm going to throw a pitch in here for Dr. Aphra.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody does seem to know Dr. Aphra in the Fringe, so you'd think that possibly, and that would be cool.
It kind of feels it could fit quite well because obviously the Mandalorian's on a bit of a hunt. She's always looking for any kind of archaeological kind of finds that maybe he might go looking for something Jedi-esque and she might just happen to be there.
Well, I mean, Din has this kind of... He is slightly naive, isn't he? So you could really see her taking advantage of him, I'm just seeing in the chat, we've got, like, for travelling Jinders, which that would be quite fun, straight out of the Ewoks, see if they could try and steal Baby Yoda or something. And Jackson, why not? Actually, Aphra would be cool, and just be able to see, like, 000 and his companion. I think that would be quite fun. I think that would make a really interesting kind of like double act on there. So
I saw that Paul Naylor there suggested a de-aged Mark Hamill as Luke. That would be a shocker.
Yeah, could you imagine? Yeah. They say they're going to go and find Ahsoka Tano, but they end up like crash landing on Acto or something like that. So yeah, I mean and that's the thing with Ahsoka. There's so many different options. You could have Ezra. You could have Rex. She does kind of like have a number of characters that can orbit her, so the possibility is quite quite big.
The one thing I noticed when we talk about characters appearing is this episode completely removed from fandom all talk of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
which
totally.
I thought was quite an impressive kind of feat, but I don't know if that speaks more of do people really want Boba Fett, or is it a case of would like to see characters we haven't seen on film before.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a big debate, isn't it, about if Boba Fett is getting his own spin-off series. It's like how contrastingly different would it be from The Mandalorian, and everybody in the chat is going to be able to kind of give me like 100 reasons what the differences are between Boba Fett and Mandalorian, but we only make up a small portion of the viewership. It's the more casual fans who and the younger fans who don't actually maybe get Boba Fett in the same way as some of the older fans do, who kind of, he was a big deal for the original trilogy, but then when you really look at him from the prequel trilogy, he was just a kid. So, that, I think that could kind of weigh into that, I think. So, I think it's good. I think it's good, that we're getting more characters and we're getting more Mandalorian characters.
Yeah. I'm going to throw in a theory that I have that I've been telling anyone who'll listen. My theory is that we're going to see the Mandalorian meet with Ahsoka. He's going to give Ahsoka the child. Ahsoka's then going to go and have her own spin-off series featuring her and the child, freeing up the Mandalorian to carry on in a season 3 on his own.
Yeah. But then I suppose I think he does seem to work because he's got this kind of very kind of like, got a very strict code of ethics about like if he's given a quest, he's going to fulfill it. So I think he would need to do something else. I don't think we could end up with just a Mandalorian just kind of wandering the galaxy, kind of like, saving little villages and stuff like that for too long without it getting too, a bit samey. So I think he would need to do something. I mean, obviously he could, pass off Baby Yoda and then go back to help fight with Bo-Katan and sort out the issues with the planet Mandalore and, help her win back the Darksaber. Because, it was convenient that there was somebody that he could palm the child off on this episode, but there's not going to be many opportunities for people that he's going to kind of be able to trust to do that. So that does kind of then lead to the question of, do you, what do you do? Do you take this child into harm's way? I mean, it's one thing to kind of say, well, okay, if we get accosted by bounty hunters and stuff like that, I'm going to have to fight, and there's a risk that he might get injured. But there's another thing to kind of like knowingly kind of take him into battle. So,
just as we go to end this episode, want to talk about something that we've got coming to Bantha Tracks TV tomorrow. So you can find this at youtube.com/Bantha Tracks TV, and it'll also be on banthatracks.com. And that's a little look at a press panel that our own Mark Newbold was part of for the upcoming Lego Holiday Special. Is that something that you're looking forward to?
Holiday Special? Yeah, absolutely. Without giving the game away too much, from what I've heard, because the people who were on that panel did get a sneak preview, and they said that it's really, really good. It's really funny, and it's just a real enjoyable kind of adventure. So I'm really looking forward to that. And we don't have too long to wait. It's 17th of November, so that's actually like 42... Yes, Mr. Newbold, 42 years to the date that the original Holiday Special came out. So that's quite nice. So yeah, I'm really excited about that one. So hopefully, if it drops early enough, I can watch it before work, and then won't have to avoid social media for the day.
And this isn't a clip from the actual program, but it's a clip of Anthony Daniels at that press panel talking about the show. So I'm just going to run that for us just now.
I was really surprised that anybody in the entertainment industry would ever consider making another holiday special, because the first one had really surprised people about how crazy it was. And then, of course, when I saw what they were going to do, and that was Lego, I was just thrilled to be asked. Lego has been a wonderful companion to Star Wars. So I think people who remember the original holiday special will be surprised. Hey, and give it a chance. Don't ignore it because it's got those words in it. This is different. This is fun. And it also references so many memories that audiences have around the world.
Always good to hear from Anthony Daniels, who
absolutely.
I'm going to call it, over the last few years since sort of Star Wars has a little bit come towards an end for him, and certainly in terms of movies, he's really found pretty impressive ways to connect with the fans, and has really become involved with the fans more than he ever has been, even though he's always been on the circuit.
Yeah, but I mean, there was, I don't really know when it was, but I did notice a change in how he kind of interacted with people a few years ago, and it's really nice. I mean, I think he really does appreciate it, and I've read his book, and he does talk about it in that he when he meets fans and stuff like that. So I mean, for a guy who's inhabited the character for since day one, passing on the legacy and keeping the legacy alive of C-3PO is it's clearly really important to him.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us. Everyone threw comments in there during the show. We tried to add as many onto the show as possible. Thank you, Mark, as well, for joining me this week.
You're welcome.
Always good fun talking Star Wars. So
Absolutely.
with that, we'll see you all next week.
Take care.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on BanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Bantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Bantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.